Visible with liberty and justice for all. Today's meeting was noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for comprehensive plan amendments, text amendments to the Charleston County zoning and land development regulations, ordinance, rezonings, and plan developments. The commission has decision-making authority on road name change requests, public project reviews, appeal of administration decisions on final plats and subdivision matters, as well as other matters pursuant to Chapter 29, Title 6, Section 6-29-340 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina as amended. If you wish to speak at today's meeting, you should have filled out the form that was at the door as you came in. I'm Cindy Floyd. I'm the chair of the commission. To my right, the commissioners are Pete Paulotis, Luke Morris, Marlena Davis, and Adam McConnell. To my left, the commissioners are David Kent, Warwick Jones, Logan Davis, and Susan Cox. Also seated to my right is Commission Attorney Mark Bell, and seated to my left, Joel Evans, Director of Zoning and Planning. Joel, would you please introduce the staff that are present?
Andrew Melisick, the Deputy Director. Wynn Carlisle, he'll be giving a presentation today. Tamara Avery, our Subdivision Planner, she'll be giving a presentation. Marche Miller, over to my left, and also Stephanie Ondo, and Alex's last name? Ludwig, okay, and Alex Ludwig. Good. That's it.
I would like to remind you that in order to get a good recording of the meeting for the minutes, please speak loudly and clearly into your microphones, and please do not talk over one another. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the Planning Commission meetings and training workshop minutes from May 13th, 2024. Is there a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Logan Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Marlena Davis.
Aye.
Chair Floyd.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Abstain, I was absent.
Commissioner Kent.
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Morris.
Abstain.
Vice Chair Pilatos.
Aye.
Commissioner Cox. The ayes have it.
Thank you. The next agenda item is a request to rezone tax map number 614-00-00-060, 061, and 062 from the Special Management District S3 zoning district to the low-density R4 zoning district. Mr. Carlisle.
Okay, thank you. Chair Floyd and Commissioners. So this is a request to rezone 614-00-00-060-61-62 from the Special Management S3 zoning district to low-density residential R4 zoning. And the total acreage of the three parcels is 8.86 acres. So the zoning history for these parcels before 2001, the subject properties were zoned AR, and with the adoption of the zoning ordinance in 2001, they then became zoned low-density suburban residential RSL. RSL then became R4 in 2006. In 2020, a 29-lot subdivision was applied for by the property owner and a developer. Related to the subdivision, a variance request for grand tree removals and encroachments was submitted to the Board of Zoning Appeals, who disapproved that submission. Later in 2022, the subdivision request was withdrawn. So continuing the zoning history in 2024, Council rezoned R4 and UR parcels in the 10-mile historic district to S3. During this process, council allowed for property owners to request opting out of the rezoning if they provided notification before the third reading of the rezoning. And hold on. So council then went on to approve the rezoning of the 10-mile historic district from R4 to S3. And went through the readings. And after the third reading, no property owners requested to opt out of the rezoning prior to that third reading. And then on March 5th, 2024, the owner of the subject property submitted a letter asking to opt out of the rezoning from R4 to S3. This letter was received after the third reading approval by County Council on February 27th. Therefore, this request must be processed as a rezoning request pursuant to Zeldar Article 3.4, the zoning map amendments. And here's the subject property's location within the county as a whole. And this map shows the current zoning districts and historic district, which the historic district is bordered in the lime green color. So that's 10-mile historic district. And then the subject properties are circled in red. So the future land use designation of the subject parcels is urban, suburban, cultural community protection. And then the current zoning, two of the subject parcels are vacant, while 935 Gadsdenville Road is developed with a single-family detached residence. To the north, east, and south, the adjacent parcels are zoned S3, while to the west is a subdivision zoned R4, which is not part of the 10-mile historic district. So as far as the flood zone, the subject properties are located in the AE12 and AE13 flood zones. And this is an aerial view to the north of the subject properties and an aerial view to the south. And these are photos of the subject properties, parcel ending in 60, 61, and 62. And then a photo of the property across the street and adjacent properties. So the comparison of land uses under the current S3 zoning and the requested R4, kind of the most substantive difference between the two zoning districts being considered are the density, with the current S3 zoning allowing for 3 units per acre and the requested R4 zoning allowing for 4 units per acre. There are also differences in the minimum lot sizes between the two zoning districts, with R4 allowing smaller lots depending on the water and wastewater services available. And then the building setbacks for S3 are larger than the setbacks for R4. As far as the approval criteria from the zoning ordinance, for the first criterion, basically consistency with the comp plan, the requested R4 zoning would allow for density with 1 to 4 dwellings per acre, which is as recommended by the comprehensive plan. However, R4 zoning would allow, as discussed on the previous slide, smaller lot sizes and setbacks than the existing development within the 10-mile community, where the average lot size of parcels is 1.09 acres. And couple this with the smaller setbacks allowed by R4 as compared to S3, the zoning requests may not be consistent with the comprehensive plan. The second approval criteria related to the density, dimensional standards, and zoning of nearby properties may not be met due to the previously discussed density, lot size, and setback differences between the current and requested zoning districts. And then last two rezoning criteria do not apply to this case. There's a difference here on this slide from what's in your packets. We received additional letters supporting the rezoning request to R4. So that total is 18 in your packets, and it's 34, reflecting the most current tally. 2 letters of opposition were received, and then in opposition to the rezoning request, and then also a petition with this wording on the slide with 50 signatures opposing the rezoning request. And then these are the notifications to the interested parties and the public notice given. And that's the end of the presentation.
Okay, we appreciate staff's comments report. Are there any questions for staff from the commission?
Yeah, so we understand what we're comparing is public water and or sewer available?
Not to my knowledge, not at that point of Gadsdenville Road, but I'm assuming.
I guess the real question for the minimum lot sizes when comparing S3 to R4, if it were to go to R4, it looks like we have an option of 5,000 square foot lots with public water and sewer.
Correct.
10,000 with one or the other and 14.5 with neither. I was just
That's correct.
curious if staff had an idea.
Yeah, I think water and sewer is available to a lot of the properties. As you can see in the aerial, that there were some smaller lots right behind that would not have been able to be created that size if sewer was not available.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Luke?
I have a question about the date that this letter, it says March 5th, the owner submitted the letter asking to opt out. Do we know if is that when the county received it? Is it when it was mailed in? I mean,
That was the date of the letter.
okay.
I do believe they called staff the day after third reading, but the letter was dated March 5th.
What was the dialogue behind why they didn't submit prior to the third reading or the other readings?
I think that the applicant can probably shed some light on that. We had discussions, as was stated by Mr. Carlisle, that we were contacted literally the next day after the third reading, and he wanted to know what his options were, and this was the only option, was to now do this rezoning request. But he had some reasons, and I'll let him describe those to you when he speaks.
May I ask a question regarding notification after the, I guess we'll call it, the Public Works, the Planning and Public Works Committee recommended approval of that rezoning with the ability for property owners to request opt-out. Was there a notification sent to the adjacent property owners regarding that, the requirement that they could then opt out? Or were they just dependent upon them checking the history of the notes of that committee meeting?
No, all of the meetings were fairly well attended by the community, but to answer your question directly, we did not send letters out saying that council, inviting people to opt out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say, I think I recall this, and I remember raising a concern with making sure we got notice appropriately to everybody and not just relying on people at the meeting And I'll tell you what jogged my memory was a letter of support that's in here from Miriam Levy, where she says exactly that. Basically, heirs of an estate did not get appropriate notice, or they weren't explained appropriately what they were doing when they signed this petition for that Gadsdenville area. So this has been a concern of mine, I think, since the beginning of this.
But we did direct notice every single property owner wherever their tax bill was going. They got 2 notices, one before the planning commission meeting and one before the public hearing. And we also put signs on every single property on December 18th. So that was our way of notifying.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. As far as the action that council requested that we rezone the property to S3, we followed that normal public notice process, posting every property, ad in the paper, parties of interest list, all of that. What we didn't renotice after that Planning and Public Works Committee meeting was the option to opt out. But everyone was notified about the rezoning of the property to begin with. Okay.
When you say the notice, there was no letters, but each property being all of the members or all of the properties in the 10-mile community, or just was it just pasted on the property on the outside?
No, it was posted physically with a sign on each parcel, and there was a letter sent to every single property owner of record in the assessor's office, letting them know of this rezoning.
That's pretty detailed, isn't it? I would have thought.
It's very detailed.
But those letters and postings, nowhere in there included language that informed the owner saying if they wish to opt out of the rezoning, to let county council or planning commissioner or whoever know by, I guess it would have been county council, to know by the 3rd reading, which was anticipated to be February 27th. That language was never in a communication.
No, because we wouldn't have known of that by county council at that time that we sent the notices out.
That was something that county council came up with. That was something that the county council came up with after all the notices had been sent?
Yes.
Okay.
During the adoption process.
Okay. Anybody else got questions on the commission? Okay. Applicant, Mr. Tisdale?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Trying to gather myself. My dad's in the hospital having emergency surgery. Had to deal with that prior to coming here. But to answer I couldn't see, I was sitting down to answer the person's question, why we weren't at those meetings. Over the past 2 years, my parents' health has declined steadily, and it's getting worse. And during that time, I was going through a very nasty divorce where I could have lost all of my assets. So at that time, last year and the year before, I was very preoccupied with taking care of my parents and, excuse me, and handling the affairs of my divorce. So if you put yourself in my situation, the health and concern of your parents, I would assume would come precedent and priority. I just didn't open some of these letters. Of course, my parents did, but, when they're sick, my father's completely blind. My mom has some severe back issues. Just doing whatever it takes just to make it was the name of the game. That answers that question. Do y'all have any other questions for me, or am I allowed to continue to speak, or?
Did you know, or when did you know that you had the option to retain the existing zoning?
It was literally after the fact, maybe a day or two after, literally, to be honest with you, with all the goings and stuff,
It wasn't important. Yeah.
well, it's important, but, you know, after this meeting, I got to rush back to the hospital with my folks. And I'm not playing the sympathy card, it's true. That they're not doing too well. So,
So, okay. Adam?
I just was curious, how did you learn about the option to opt out of that? How did it come to your attention?
it was a
since you
day
did
or
not get a letter from
two
the county?
later, I think our realtor let us know about it.
Gotcha.
And I don't know, I don't remember how he found out about it. So, you know, during that time, it was a blur. They may have been rezoning signs posted. I don't remember one on my parents' property, but I'll just, for the sake of agreeing with staff, yeah, they were there. I just don't remember seeing any. And definitely, if we have known, then I myself would have been, or my brother would have been to the meeting to definitely ask to be opt-out. And, I mean, opt back, well, grandfathered in. And, I mean, that's the main reason that we're here, is that had we have been there, we would have made that option.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Am I still allowed to speak during the public part?
Oh, no, this is, you're,
Okay.
if you got anything else to say, you
I
need
think
to,
he had a-
you need to go
he had
ahead
a
and say
question,
it.
sir?
Who are you working with to develop the subdivision?
I want to be clear, we're not developing anything. We were
Okay.
a couple years ago. Right now, we're not planning on doing any, at this time, any activities right now. Right now, I have moved back in with my parents. They've made some significant investments in their property, inside the property, you know, such as home improvements and stuff like that. So to help them manage things, but we want to be able to have that option if in the future that's something that we want to pursue. But right now, we had some major drainage issues we had to take care of on our property. And, you know, right now, I mean, I moved back in, you know, that's, right now, that's not on any horizon right now.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I do. Just to be brief, you know, for, you know, since I was living here since '78, I think my parents brought those 3 parcels back in '76. You know, property owners developed, downsized, upsized their property at their pleasure. Us as our family, we had no kickback. As you could see, we have a development directly behind us. If there's anyone that should be pitching a fit about development, it should be us. Sometimes, maybe some of the neighbors, you can still hear them, but whatever. They have their right. And other people, especially unfortunately after Hurricane Hugo, you know, have changed and modified their homes, made them bigger. Some of them, I don't know, downsized or whatever, but they had that choice and that right. Property has been sold by people from the community, and we are just wanting that same right if we decide to exercise that ability. My family is not opposed to anything historic. We disagree with some of the policies. As I go about trying to get signatures and stuff, I mean, people believe in property owners' rights to do what they want to do to their property. And there's a lot of things that we can do to ensure that, that a level of preservation happens in the community. There's a lot of things I think Charleston County should be doing a lot more than what you all are doing now with the historic preservation, but that's on a different subject. I just want to put that out there because some people think that we're against it. We're not. We're definitely for the community. When it comes to things such as drainage issues, well, the main drainage issues in our community is the lack of maintenance done by the Department of Transportation, and I will say probably Charleston County, and also property owners. You know, my parents' property had drainage ditches on them for well over, before they even purchased the property, got filled in. We had some nasty rains. My parents, myself, got literally stuck in our property for 3 days. That's when we said that's enough. And we had to do our part on our land to get the water to the state right-of-way. There are people in the community, such as myself, have called and put in work requests for the Department of Transportation to clean the drainage structures out. So, and another thing when it comes to traffic, yes, there is an increase of traffic and the roads are being degraded. However, you know, the more traffic you have, the poorer the road, the more higher the road paving index increases, and that your road will get repaved and potentially lower the speed limits and potentially put down traffic calming devices. So, you know, my biggest thing is we want to
Mr.
have that.
Tisdale, I think we've kind of wandered past the zoning issue, so if you could wrap it up, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I'm practically done, so I just want to put that out there. We would have raised our hands and said yes. Unfortunately, we just couldn't make it to the meeting, and we're asking you all to consider putting that back on the table as recommended by Charleston County staff.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. Who is the trustee or trustees of the Tisdale Living Trust?
That would be my parents. I am the power of attorney.
Okay.
That would be my parents.
Okay? All right. Craig Askew, you want to speak? Tell us your address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Askew. I live at 987 Gadsdenville Road. That's in Allendale, South Carolina. First of all, I would like to submit my condolences to Charleston County for the passing of Mr. Joe Coates. I saw in Mount Pleasant the fire department and everybody at the funeral, so that part. And also, before I get started, to Mr. Tisdale, I've been neighbors with you and your parents for quite a while, and I know that your dad and mom have been under the weather. My heart goes out to you, and I know how much in the community we care for our parents, and that's a big part of why we're so connected and in such a close-knit community. So I want to say that. No malice, no misintent, but and we care for each other. We care for you guys as well. I mean that too. As far as the rezoning goes and the opt-out goes, allowing this rezoning would potentially put more than 29 plus uncharacteristic homes with extremely uncharacteristic densities and lot patterns in a community in a minute. And we have worked extremely hard with the county, We worked extremely hard as a community, engaging community and community members, including the Tisdales, and just trying to protect these historic settlement communities. And things have changed, like Mr. Tisdale did say. At one point, I did not realize how very important settlement communities like 10 Mile are to.
We get the picture.
Somebody,
Okay.
keep
So
going.
I did not realize, and I did not realize how vitally important these African American settlement communities were to Charleston, and what we and who we are, the people we are, how we got there, and the work that we did to make Charleston the place that it is right now. And what I'm saying, more importantly, is that black people and black communities could not go anywhere else to do this. And that really shed a huge light to me and my knowledge of what we were doing in the community as a whole. And as I see now developments coming in the community, and I'm a licensed realtor, by the way, and I have sold property to developers, and it makes me sick, y'all. It makes me sick. I could curse today and damn the hour that I did it. And I can say that because I did it. And to sit here, I'm not going to sit idle and act like I don't know what's going on. I'm going to be super active in my community, whether it's 10 Mile or Charleston County, to make sure that we protect and preserve certain things, certain areas that need to be protected and preserved. I think that it's just a little bit too little too late. I think that R4, R3, the fraction is the same. I wasn't a great math student, but fractions are fractions. If you have 100, you can cut a $100 bill as many times as you want. The R3 is better for the community. R4 is just too much. It's too much on the infrastructure. It's too much traffic. It's too much you will not be able to protect and preserve. I would love for y'all to keep the density, the S3, the way it is right now. The property can still be transferred, however, but I think that to protect it and preserve it needs to be in its current state. The fraction is the fraction. However, the developers or realtors want to do it, I think they need to do it within the community confines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Pearl Askew.
Good evening. Pearl Askew, 977 Gadsdenville Road, Awandaw, South Carolina. Is this on? Okay. Anyways, I am here to oppose the R4 rezoning. We fought long and hard to become a historical district. We fought long and hard to change the zoning to S3 like the other settlement communities in Charleston County. And as far as notification is concerned, 10 Mile was littered with signs posting about all of the information that Charleston County staff brought to the community. Letters upon letters, information upon information, everyone should have known, and it was posted. That said, the fact that this rezoning, based on the criteria, it really will hinder several aspects of the comprehensive plan in regards to what the criteria are. We are desperately opposing this request for rezoning back to R4. We've also gotten information saying that our land is not as valuable, but why would someone think that our land would not be as valuable if they wanted to sell it? Seems to me like more would cost more. If you get more acreage per S3, why would it cost less? So there's a lot of misinformation that's going around in reference to rezoning in the settlement community, especially in the 10 Mile community, at this time. I'm requesting that the Planning Commission, please do not vote to have this rezoned back to R4. We're trying desperately to save our settlement communities. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm having trouble reading this next name. Is Wong the last name? Okay, Marianne what?
Worthy.
Worthy.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Marietta Worthy.
You're right.
Good afternoon. The name is Marietta Worthy.
Okay.
I'm at 3875 Watson View Drive. I think we need to keep the R3 zoning, because I believe developers and their supporters are trying to put the community members, and in most cases, family members, against each other by telling them people are trying to take away their property rights and having the residents they plan to buy from request uncharacteristic lot size changes and subdivisions. In all these years, people have owned these properties. It's quite peculiar that so many are now trying to subdivide into small lots or go back to R4 zoning. It should make everyone wonder, and it should make the property owners realize that they're being used like pawns in a chess game. They are just providing a mean of the end game, which is buying up as much land in our community as they can. No one is stopping anybody from selling their land, if that's what you choose to do. But you need to know the options. I don't think the developers is having you request subdivision or rezoning because they really want to give you more money. They're in the money-making business. It looks better to have the current property owner or resident request these changes than for a developer to do it. So you're being used to destroy your own people. Please don't allow that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The discussion is now closed as to public comment. Is there a motion and a second from the commission?
I move that we deny the request to rezone.
Is there a second?
For discussion, I'll second it.
Because we do have a second.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Discussion?
I go first?
Yeah.
I must say, before I came, I thought I was going to oppose it. I'm not sure now. I suppose I'm concerned that taking the applicant in good faith, he did not know that he had the option to opt out. And to me, that makes a lot of difference. But on the other hand, I agree with the other speakers. If it did remain, or if the whole area remained with the R4, it did jeopardize the integrity of the historic district. And I might add that the S3 district is common in all of the other settlement communities, so there would be a commonality with the S3. But having said that, I'm inclined to not support the application, and I'll let other people speak to it.
Anybody else have any? Okay, Luke.
I think we're all on the fence, and to be honest, I've been going back and forth listening to everyone talking, and I think it's going to be a game time decision, but I'm kind of leaning on the side of, as the Planning Commission, we are just a recommendation body. From a city planning perspective, a higher or rezoning back to the R4 on a street that has all S3, I think, honestly, I'm probably going to recommend denial as well, just because from a planning perspective, I don't think that it makes sense to increase at this point the zoning, even though I believe that you probably did intend to opt out. And it may be just be a discussion with the council. And if council feels like they want to reverse that outside of the planning perspective, that may be the way to go.
Anybody else? No.
I think it's clear this commission, when we originally passed the overlay to change it to S3, we all are in support of preservation, the community preservation. That's why we did that to begin with. Looking at the intent of what council had when they gave the option to opt out and the lack of, for me, their inability to adequately communicate that to the property owners makes me want to vote and deny the denial. So I am in support of the rezoning only in that I don't believe that the communication from the county was sufficient to protect the applicant's rights, essentially. That's where I stand.
I think I know this answer, but I'll ask staff just to have it on record. Given that there wasn't, it doesn't sound like there was notice about the opt-out provision, has planning received any other applications that we may be seeing in the future where somebody else is claiming that they're not aware of it, of that option, and are seeking relief as well?
We have not received a formal request or application other than Mr. Tisdale's.
Okay.
I believe there may have been a few conversations with some folks, but Mr. Tisdale's the one that stepped forward, yeah.
I hate the situation that the Tisdales are in here, because I do feel like they intended to make it known they wanted to opt out. Maybe they missed a deadline here, and obviously deadlines are crucial. But if we look at the intent of offering the opt-out, and here we are, and even a couple days after the last reading, they become aware through other means and give notice, even by phone, followed by a letter. This is their one opportunity to walk that back, and I don't want to stand in the way of it for a number of reasons, and I won't go into what I think different zonings mean as far as value and things like that. But I think the intent was there, and it's clear they had submitted requests starting in 2020 to do something with the property. And I know they pulled that back, but it was clear that they wanted to do something beyond what this S3 is now. And so I would vote against the denial. Yeah.
A quick question, I guess, for staff about the S3. If it were to be developed in the future under S3, would that have, beyond the density requirements and the use allowances, would that have any sway on like the layout of properties or the layout of roads within the subdivision process? Does that make sense?
See if I can so it's currently zoned S3. If it was developed as S3, it would have a minimum lot size of 12,500 square feet and a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit, 3 dwelling units per acre.
But beyond that, there's no so if it were S3 or R4, the only difference besides uses and density, there wouldn't be you couldn't do a cul-de-sac or in terms of how it would be laid out in the subdivision process.
No.
Okay.
That would be the same.
Okay.
The biggest thing is the minimum lot size,
Right.
as you can see in that table.
Well, and the animal and insect production.
There's that too. Yeah.
Well, I had a cow or a pig.
8 homes difference.
You're in S3.
Would be the difference between the two.
Okay. Anybody else? Got any questions, comments? All right. If there's no further discussion, it's time to call for the roll.
So the motion is, sorry, what is the motion?
The motion is to deny the request.
No,
I
I'm
need
not
to know.
denying, no.
Deny the request to go from S3 to R4.
I want to go to S4.
Oh, you do want, okay,
Yeah.
well, that's
You
up
want
to
to go, you want to go to R4?
Yes, I want to go for what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we have a second still?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he
Already
can-
said
I second it, but I,
Okay, okay.
There was, that was for discussion.
yeah.
I
yeah.
got you. Okay.
It's on the table, all right.
Yes, motion is to deny the application to go from S3 to R4.
Nay.
That was Logan Davis? Yes. Okay. Commissioner Marlena Davis?
Nay.
Chair Floyd?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Nay.
Commissioner Kent?
Nay.
Commissioner McConnell?
Nay.
Commissioner Morris?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pilatos?
Nay.
Commissioner Cox? The nays have it.
All right. County Council will hear these requests at their public hearing July 23rd, 2024 at 6:30 PM in council chambers, and again at their August 8th, 2024 Planning and Public Works Committee meeting at 5 PM. The request must then undergo 3 readings for approval at council's discretion. The next agenda item is subdivision plat review training. Tamara Avery and Matthew Hussman. Is Matthew Hussman here?
He's not.
Oh.
Hi, so my name's Tamara Avery. I'm over the subdivision division. I normally do the major subdivisions. Matthew Hussman, who's not here today, he does the minor subdivisions, and we also have Alex, our new administrative assistant. So some of the slides you'll recognize from our previous PowerPoint that we did, I think in January, just to kind of go over the subdivision process and why we will be bringing plats to you all for review and recommendation. Again, it's the subdivision staff. So types of subdivisions in the ordinance, you have exempt plats. Exempt plats are like boundary surveys, property line adjustments, if you're adding an easement to the property. Minor subdivisions are up to 4 lots. This used to be up to 10 lots, but as you know, we amended the ordinance a few years ago to make minor subdivisions up to 4 lots to allow for ingress, egress easements to access off of those. A major subdivision is 5 lots or more, and with the ordinance revision, we made it so that major subdivisions have to have right-of-way access meeting secondary county road standards. So the major subdivision process, you have a preliminary plat. That is the preliminary review to make sure that it meets all the minimum requirements per the ordinance. And then once all the infrastructure is in place, they submit a final plat. A final plat is what is submitted to the Register of Deeds office. And then once it's recorded at the Register of Deeds office, it goes to the mapping department in the assessor's office. They map it in GIS and give individual tax map numbers, and then they become individual parcels. So part of the plat review process, our guidelines are found in Chapter 8 of our ordinance, but just to kind of give you an overview of what we look for, we make sure that it has a title explaining exactly what they would like to be done, scale, north arrow, date, contact information, legal descriptions usually done in the references section of a plat, usually references previously recorded plats and deeds. The surveyor has to certify it. You have to be a licensed surveyor to record a plat at the Register of Deeds. They have to have a raised seal and an original signature on everything that's recorded. Boundary lines, courses and distance, property corners, any easements that are available, show right-of-way. Again, minor subdivisions can have a 20-foot ingress-egress easement. The difference between an ingress-egress easement and a right-of-way is that easement, you're essentially given someone rights to cross your property. We require a minimum of 20-foot access. A right-of-way becomes an individual parcel. It has its own TMS number, and we require those to be dedicated to an entity because it will receive its own tax bill from the county, and we require that it have an entity for the maintenance of it moving forward. And showing things like setbacks, minimum lot size, that's what we kind of look for with the plats. And then to continue that, any drainage easements have to be shown on the plat. And compliance with, we ask for coordination for water, sewer. If it's tying into a SCDOT road, we request a letter of coordination with DOT or Charleston County, an approval block, OTRM critical line, that has to be signed off by the DHEC OTRM department, and those are good for 5 years. Any wetlands, wetlands have to be designated through the Army Corps of Engineers. However, we've allowed in our ordinance that you could have a third-party soils consultant. But if it's a major subdivision, then stormwater typically likes to see a jurisdictional determination from the Army Corps. So those are just some things we look at when we look at plats. When we get a plat in, we look at our GIS to see what the zoning is. So for instance, this just happens to be S3. So we look at the minimum lot requirements and make sure what the surveyor is presenting meets the minimum lot requirements. This is chapter 4 of our ordinance. Every zoning district is found in chapter 4 unless you're an overlay, and that is found in chapter 5 of our ordinance. So exempt plats, boundary, property line, easements, or reestablishment of a property line. So this is an example of a boundary survey. It's a little bit, might be difficult for y'all to see, but it's just an existing lot showing the property corners, showing the location of the road. The north arrow has to have the coordinates method, all of the FEMA flood zone, the references and plat notes, a scale. If it has a curve chart or a line chart, that has to be on there. So boundary surveys are pretty basic. And then this one, you can kind of see where it says property line to be abandoned. It's shown as a dashed line. That's how it's done on plats. You show the existing property line to be abandoned as a dashed, and then the new property line is a solid line so that mapping knows where to move it. Sometimes if it's multiple lines, we ask them to do an acreage chart from the current lot size to the proposed lot size, just so mapping understands what they're doing. And it helps with the assessor's office. So let's see, which one is this one? This is just establishing an easement on the property. And again, minor subdivisions are 4 lots or less. They're accessed by an ingress-egress easement. Minimum width of an ingress-egress easement is 20 feet. And minor subdivisions go straight to final plat. So we look for the zoning and the density, verify that the proposed lots meets the minimum lot requirements. They have to show any grand trees that are on the property, that the parcel has legal access and water and sewer. That's done through either a letter of availability for public water, public sewer. They pay impact and tap fees. If it's septic, they provide a DHEC septic permit. Or if it's over 5 acres, they can do an agricultural non-buildable lot. If it's under 5 acres, they can do agricultural non-buildable, put a statement on the plat that says essentially it can't be developed until public water and public sewer is provided. And then in the rural areas, those are deed restricted. This is an example of a minor subdivision that is on the OCRM critical line. So the hatching past the OCRM critical line, that's marsh. We do not count marsh towards density. So if you have a lot that's 2 acres, but an acre of it is marsh, then your density is going to be based off of the acre of highland. And that also goes for wetlands. We do not allow wetlands to go in the highland for consideration of density of lots. So major subdivisions are 5 lots or more. They have to be accessed off a secondary county road standard. Essentially, secondary county road standards is a 50-foot wide right-of-way with a 22-foot wide travelway. You have to have positive drainage, and the road surface type depends on the road that you're accessing. So if the road is paved that you're accessing from, then we will require that the new right-of-way be paved. There is a section of the ordinance that says you can ask for a waiver from the Public Works Director, but we've never had that approved. So major subdivision process, again, it starts out as a preliminary plat with essentially like a detailed drawing. We work with the stormwater department, kind of run parallel to make sure that it meets all the stormwater requirements, all the minimum lot requirements for the zoning districts, get all of the letters of coordination, and then essentially says it's a viable site and it can provide all utilities and requirements per the ordinance, and they are allowed to proceed with development. Once the development is finished, they submit a final plat. They submit closeout documents. For example, if it has a right-of-way, we require that, you know, they have the HOA or LLC established. We receive the restricted covenants for those HOAs, the Secretary of State certification that the entity has been created. Public water and public sewer, we do DHEC, permit to operate, so that we know that it's passed their inspections. Our staff will go out and do a final walkthrough and a grand tree inspection to make sure everything is as it was per the preliminary plat. And then we will take the plat to be recorded at the Register of Deeds. So again, preliminary plat, stormwater approval, they get all their other jurisdictional permits. Construction drawings are approved by stormwater and subdivision staff. Tree barricades go up. We do a grand tree barricade inspection before site work starts, and then they receive their zoning permit to start clearing and grading. And this is an example of a major subdivision. It's kind of hard to see because it's a 2-page plat, but this is a 10-lot subdivision off of Johns Island. And this is the section of the South Carolina State Law 6-29-340, which gives the Planning Commission the powers and duties of approving subdivision plats. And this is the section of the Historic Preservation Ordinance that was recently approved by Council, as to why we are now bringing these plats to you all for review. So the purpose of that section in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, in order to encourage the preservation of historic character of the historic properties and historic districts, preliminary and minor subdivision plat applications as defined in the Charleston County Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance, or historic properties within 300 feet of the historic properties/districts must be evaluated by the Commission prior to final determination by the Planning Commission. So the process is we will take it to Historic Preservation Commission, and then we will bring the applications to the Planning Commission. And then this is the section of the new HPC ordinance, which details their commission evaluation. And the HPC can't approve, deny, or defer subdivision applications. So what will they be reviewing the plats against? It will be per the comprehensive plan, the cultural resource element goal, which is section 3.4.3. And then this is the strategies and time frames of the cultural resources element of the Charleston County Comprehensive Plan. And that's my presentation if you have any questions. Yes.
Can you email this to us? the
Sure.
Presentation, thank you.
So does everyone get that the planning commission will now be seeing subdivision plats? As of today, both minor and major subdivision plats for any property that's in a historic district or on historic property.
These are final plats only, right? This already has gone through staff review back and forth, and
No, it'd be reversed. You'll see the preliminary plat.
we'll see the preliminary. plat.
Preliminary
Okay.
plat, right.
And can you sell property off a preliminary plat but not close until it's final? Is that how that works?
You can't sell
Okay,
property
no.
off a preliminary plat now.
No.
Can or cannot?
You cannot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why we had this education, so that you will see some cases in July coming
You'll
forward.
have 4 cases that will come to you after they go to HPC, Historic Preservation Commission, on the 26th of this month. It'll come to your July 8th meeting. You'll have that, and you'll have one plan development rezoning request on the agenda.
And then we say it complies with the comprehensive plan and send it up to county council, or?
No, you still have final decision-making authority. So the Historic Preservation Commission will give a report as to whether or not they feel that the subdivision application is consistent with what Tamara just went over with the comp plan, and that's it. And then
Okay.
you can take that for information however you want to do it.
So
Yeah.
like when we sent the commission as decision-making authority, blah, 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 and flat changes?
Right. Yes.
The stuff I read
Yeah.
out at the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then staff has control over the final.
Yes. Staff will. And so you'll know, the difference between the preliminary plat and the final plat is not a whole lot, usually. Usually the applicant is waiting for approvals from other jurisdiction, other agencies. But the preliminary plat allows the applicant to start construction. The final plat's not given until all of those site improvements have been put in place, inspected, and they're ready to, start pulling building permits.
So I know we're looking ahead. So as the Historic Preservation Committee looks to compare the preliminary plats to the comprehensive plan, will they list these different element items? Or let me back up. Will they tell us if one is deemed deficient, which one it doesn't comply with, in their opinion?
Commission members, that is the goal. We have not seen applications before the Historic Preservation Commission at the moment, but they will be looking for whatever they feel is consistent or not consistent, and through their deliberations, then they should note that, and then you will see whatever their deliberation is, and then their determination of consistent or not consistent. Once you get that report, you can review that report for your information, use it or not use it. Ultimately, you will be deciding the subdivision based off the ZLDR and its regulations with whatever other input you feel was warranted for that application.
Thank you.
Will we have a staff recommendation as well?
Well, we wouldn't bring it forward unless it met the ordinance requirements. So,
I guess that's what I meant.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
So, okay, and this is just for the historic.
So it's just historic
districts.
districts and historic properties.
Okay.
And you will see all the subdivision applications for that after the HPC, Historic Preservation Commission, writes a report. They're not recommending, they're not voting up or down, they just have a report of whether or not it's consistent with the comp plan or not. That specific element of the comp plan.
And we make a decision.
And then you make a decision from there. And it's the final decision.
So could we turn down?
That we.
Uncharted waters.
We're in uncharted waters,
Okay,
yeah.
all
Because
right.
as you know, the planning commission implements the zoning ordinance.
Right.
And the comprehensive plan implements the zoning ordinance.
Right.
So if we get enough applications from the HPC that somehow doesn't seem like it fits the comprehensive plan, I think we're going to wind up looking at doing something with the zoning of the properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you change it.
All right.
Yeah. Real quick, Mark, do you want me to say that? Yeah. The last case that we had where we had the motion to deny and that motion failed, we want to, it's up to the commission how they want it. We want to present it. We want to present it to, right, exactly. We can close the loop if we do the revote and someone makes a motion to approve, right. It would be it'll be.
To grant the report.
To grant, it would be
Request, okay.
cleaner for our report to council.
Double negative.
Right, exactly, yes, yes.
I don't get this.
We've done this before.
We've done
Somebody
this
wanna-
before,
I'll
yeah.
make a motion to approve Mr. Tisdale's application. for
Second.
R4.
Oh, okay.
Roll,
I
please.
get you. Instead of a double negative, we're getting approval.
So now,
Commissioner Logan Davis?
now I vote no instead of yes.
So however you voted the last time, if you feel compelled, you vote
The other way.
the other way, right?
Commissioner Marlena Davis?
Aye.
Chair Floyd?
No.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Kent?
Aye.
Commissioner McConnell? Commissioner Morris?
Nay.
Vice Chair Pilatos?
Aye.
Commissioner Cox? The ayes have it.
Okay. Is there any further business? I can't think of any. It says chair's remarks. I don't have any. There's no further business. This meeting of the Charleston County Planning Commission stands adjourned. The Planning Commission will hold its next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, July the 8th at 2 p.m. in council chambers.
One, if I could say one thing about the director's report. As you recall, there was a appeal of an administrative decision of the subdivision that was made, if you recall, last summer. And it went through the court system, and I think that, Mark, is that case closed?
Commission members, we have to verify that the case is closed. The court did uphold the staff's decision, and to my knowledge, the appellant has decided not to further appeal. So at the moment, there is nothing to worry about because the staff's decision was upheld.
Thanks to Tamara.
So iPad versus notebook.
I'll explain the iPad. I will explain the iPad situation. In the first floor offices of the planning department, the last 3 days, they've taken all the furniture up and stored it in a great storing space where we store our iPads. Well, we can't even get to the iPads. And so kudos to staff this morning when it was realized where they got on a computer real quick and printed everything out. So you will have your iPads back, all right? We could not get to them.
I didn't know we got demoted.
No.
Well, I was thinking somebody had porn on it. But hey.
All right.
All right. You can go now, huh? Yes. Our work here's done. Are we gonna get 2 orders next week since we got 4 applications?